Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet, presented to you by Betway. I'm Adam Peddle, joined alongside by Nicholas Paleolog. The winter meetings just came and went, and holy crap, was it ever a winter meetings to remember. I mean, there was trades all over the place. There were signings all over the place, and yet we still have a lot of big names that are still on the board, so the free agency is not over yet. We got to talk about Corbin Burnes, the latest on him, as well as Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, and then talk about all the things that did happen and where those teams kind of stand now, because there's been a lot of shifting movement, especially in that AL East. We'll talk about it more, but before we do, Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Yeah, the winter meetings, they didn't disappoint. You know, it came and went, and it was fast, but there was a lot of action there, man, and there's a lot of stuff to recap. Just so many moving pieces, so many moving wins. You know, when you think about it in terms of, well, this guy brings 4 WAR and this guy brings 3 WAR, there was a lot of wins that were transferring around between squads in the past couple days, and to your point, there is still quite a lot of wins available out there on the free agency market, which is where I kind of want to start things off today. You know, the big name right now is Corbin Burnes, and it feels like the suitors for him, or we have a much better idea as to the small handful of suitors that he has than we ever had for a Juan Soto or various other individuals on the free agency market. It does seem like it's a 2-horse race, and even in that 2-horse race, one of those horses is really pulling ahead right now.
Yeah, it is. You got Bob Nightingale coming out this morning saying the San Francisco Giants are the heavy favorites for Burnes, while the Mets are also trying to bring back Pete Alonso. That was the entire quote. But that first part, what he's doing is he's quoting an article he wrote yesterday talking about how he already said that the favorites were going to be the San Francisco Giants, and there's many reasons to believe that. So, you know, he's a California guy, right? Corbin Burnes may want to go back and play in California. They're also being pretty aggressive this offseason because they haven't really gotten over the hump and gotten any big player in a long, long time. And Corbin Burnes could be that guy. And they also lost out on Blake Snell. They need a replacement there. It makes a lot of sense. Whereas on the other side of things, you've got the Toronto Blue Jays, who also missed out on all these big free agents like Soto and Max Fried. And I think there was a quote out there that there is a hole in their pocket that is just burning right now because they've got so much cash that they want to spend. And that's the one thing that the Toronto Blue Jays have over the San Francisco Giants apparently in this race is they have a lot of money, but it feels like that won't matter because Burnes has already been meeting with the San Francisco Giants last night, and everyone's kind of linking them like, oh, well, maybe he goes back home. It feels like it's inevitable, and Bob thinks so. I
mean, it's only going to matter if they actually choose to spend it, right? And so, yeah, while everybody's saying that, oh, there's, a bunch of money burning a hole in your pocket, I don't necessarily think that they view it that way, right? It feels like the Toronto Blue Jays are perfectly content to give market value and then just cross their fingers and hope for the best, and that's just not going to be enough when you're talking about somebody of the caliber of Corbin Burnes. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first offseason that Buster Posey has had as the GM and the guy calling the shots.
Yeah, and he's already made a pretty historic signing in getting Willie Adames.
Because he wants to make an impression, right? This is like his way of setting up like his regime and showing everybody that they mean business, right? Nobody wants to come in as the new GM and their first off season just do jack shit.
Right.
His whole thing is, I'm going to come in here and we're going to create a winning culture. How am I going to do that? I'm going to bring in multiple elite guys right here, and everyone's going to know, not only just in our organization, but around the league, that you cannot sleep on the San Francisco Giants anymore. I think that alone is enough of an argument to convince Corbin Burnes, and the San Francisco Giants have so many reasons as to why they should be favorites, but honestly, that for me is one of the leading ones right there.
Well, think about where the San Francisco Giants roster is right now. Like they're really starting to build a solid foundation. We also forgot about the Matt Chapman signing that happened, right? Like you have a guy there. I think he's locked down for 5 or 6 years, I believe it is. Willie Adames for 7. You got to imagine Corbin is going to be 7 or more, right? So that's already the starting core of your team. And then you've also got some like pretty young, exciting guys up in the league. Obviously, Young Hoo Lee they got last year. He's signed for a while. Tyler Fitzgerald, he's a rookie. They like him. He's up there. Lamont Wade Jr. has been around for a while, been around for like 5 years on that Giants team, but still a core part of the team. Now you're starting to build a little bit, right? You also got Patrick Bailey as the catcher. You're starting to build a foundation here in San Fran, and they're spending the money to do it. Going adding Corbin Burnes is the exact thing you need to do to add to Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Jordan Hicks. Like, they actually have guys.
No,
you know what I mean?
Dude, you forget about the Giants just because the Dodgers are there,
right?
And the Padres are there too, and like they are very exciting teams, right? But those San Francisco Giants cannot be slept on. Like they are a solid squad, and to your point, like. That is a big acquisition of Willy Adames, and Corbin Burnes would be a huge acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
I just think like they are. Ever since Buster Posey took over, like they're approaching the league with a newfound seriousness, right? And there is an aggression in the way that they are dealing with these free agents and just moves in general, which if you're a Giants fan is very exciting. They are also not a small market team, right? We're talking about these Corbin Burnes sweepstakes, and we're saying, oh, well, the Toronto Blue Jays have the edge when it comes to money.
Yeah.
I mean, not that much. Like San Francisco does also have money. It's not like you're dealing with the Colorado Rockies here or something like that.
Or the Sacramento, or not even Sacramento. Yeah, the Sacramento A's.
The A's. Like San Francisco has always been in the upper echelon when it comes to spending money. Just maybe not that much in the last couple of years.
We're right, and like we have to remember that because it is a new Buster Posey regime. Well, what does he make a new budget? Is there a new budget for him? Is he more willing to go out and spend, like you're saying? Possibly. We haven't seen that. That's the whole argument that people have against the Giants is, well, they don't spend money. Well, it's a new effing front office.
Yeah, and like honestly, I just thought of this right now. I mean, I think that the Giants are kind of like the Boston Red Sox to, the New York Yankees or the LA Dodgers of their division, right? It's like they are a historical franchise. No, they don't spend necessarily as much money as their, I guess sister over there in LA. But they're still a big market team, and they have had a lot of success there before. Fuck, Buster Posey can certainly speak on that himself, right? A couple World Series rings in his cabinet. So yeah, I do think that they're kind of awake right now. They're out of hibernation, and like if I had to place money on it, like at this point, it feels like Corbin Burnes should go there and will go there.
It does feel that way. And now, where does that leave the Toronto Blue Jays? We just recorded our Blue Jays Today podcast, and it leaves them in a bad place right now. From a front office standpoint, you were supposed to be going out and splashing a lot of money to save your team this offseason. So far, you splashed it on a trade for Gimenez, which we will get into, and Jimmy Garcia. You haven't gone out and got the big acquisition, and missing out on someone like Corbin Burnes. That's another L for that front office right there. That is, having the fire lit underneath their ass in the last couple off seasons. If they miss out on Corbin Burnes, it's going to suck. And the pivot there is the most logical one, where they go into Santander, which they've been rumored to be in on, or Teoscar Hernandez, a old hometown favorite. But they got to make a move, because if they don't, I mean, just looking at the other division, in the NL West, they're going to fall out even further, right? You have, the San Francisco Giants moving up like they are with the Boston Red Sox. The Toronto Blue Jays, they're down with the Colorado Rockies and the Arizona Diamondbacks of the world right there.
No, I hear you.
They got to make a move soon. And
well, let's talk a little bit about that Gimenez trade with the Cleveland Guardians, right? Andres Gimenez, elite defensive player, struggles when it comes to the offense. He gets traded away from Cleveland to Toronto. In return, they are sending over Spencer Horwitz. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, you should be, because last year he was solid. First year, really, in the MLB that he got some serious playing time, and the guy was really, really good. Came up, a couple months into the season, finished things off with a 790 OPS. Had he started the year in MLB, assuming, of course, that, he played at that level consistently for the whole season, he would have been up there in Rookie of the Year voting.
Right.
So Cleveland getting a very solid guy back right there and kind of doing their whole Cleveland thing. We've been talking about this deal, so much so on our other channel from a Blue Jays perspective. let's talk about it from a Cleveland Guardians perspective,
all
right?
right.
What do you think about this deal from the Cleveland Guardians standpoint?
I think it would make sense for them because they then flipped Spencer Horwitz to the Pirates.
They
They got 4 additional prospects in return, including Luis Ortiz, who is a pitcher. And that's always going to be the Cleveland Guardians' bread and butter. Luis Ortiz has a 3 WAR ERA of 3.32. He's a pretty good guy. 25-year-old young dude that is showing a little bit of promise in the league in the last season. So I guess if you're the Guardians standpoint, look, if you put him pound to pound with the Blue Jays or the Yankees, you'd say, terrible move. Why would you do that? Why would you trade away a guy who accumulates so much WAR at the second base bag? Well, because they can't afford him. Right. And it always comes to that point with organizations like the Guardians, like the Rays, like the A's, where they just simply can't afford guys anymore, and they need to move on from them. And the only way you can really do that is if you turn this guy into maybe 4 guys that you can maybe hope to have a future with that are cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and then you're hoping that one of those guys hits and becomes your previous player, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and to their credit, Cleveland does do this very, very well.
Very often.
They do it, arguably better than most. Like in the entirety of the time that I have been a baseball fan, which is closing in on, a solid decade at this point, Cleveland Guardians have never really been that bad. Like there's been a couple rough seasons in there, but most of the time they're competitive, and that's with them losing key talents like a Frankie Lindor and all that shit. Like that's a team that just consistently figures out ways to win without the same budget that their other AL rivals seem to have.
It's because they play the game completely different, and they also manage their team very different than you would a Blue Jays or Yankees. I mean, if the Cleveland Guardians had the roster of the Toronto Blue Jays, Vladdy's gone already. Vladdy's gone.
Yeah.
They can't afford $500 million for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's gone, right? Unless you try to sell him really low like they did with Jose Ramirez. Like, what a steal of a contract that was. But they manage it differently, and they play differently, too. They're always about pitching. They know pitching and defense is what gets them good enough. I mean, that's what the Blue Jays are trying to do. Hell, who's running the Blue Jays right now? The former Cleveland Guardians front office, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's get to our bread and butter of pitching and defense. We'll raise our floor, but to your point, it never gets to the ceiling because what wins you in the postseason? Home runs and big sluggers.
I get that, man. I get that. But, again, like, they made it really close, and
that's all they need to do.
And they made it to the semifinals last year, right?
Yeah.
So it's like ultimately, if a couple more things fell your way, like why they could have just as easily been in the World Series as the New York Yankees, and honestly, maybe put up a better fight than they did
possibly
up against the LA Dodgers.
Defensively,
they were terrible,
right?
Terrible. And that's the thing, like Cleveland doesn't have that. Granted, they did just trade away one of their elite defenders, but I'm sure that they will find ways around it. So honestly, from a Guardian standpoint, I do like this deal a lot because they did shave money off, and this is just the way that they play baseball. And I'm sure that, 1 or 2 of those 4 prospects that they ended up flipping Spencer Horwitz for, they're going to develop into quality players. That's just the way of it. Their development team over there on Cleveland is a top 5 in MLB.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely hear that. Now, what about the Blue Jays standpoint? Because, in a vacuum, you look at this trade and you're like, okay, good defender, has maybe a little bit upside for a bat because he was an all-star back in 2022 with an OPS over 800, a batting average almost 300, provides you with a lot of WAR. Actually, I just saw a graphic here that Gimenez since 2021 or 2022, excuse me, has the 4th highest WAR out of all the second basemen. You got Altuve, Simeon, Horner, Gimenez, top 4 in MLB. So you're like, okay, nice deal. And they had to trade an unproven, not highly rated prospect in Spencer Horwitz. However, you look at the Toronto Blue Jays' entire roster and what they've been doing the last few years, they already made a trade like this for Dalton Varsho a couple years ago, getting a Gold Glove defender, one of the best defenders in the league in the outfield in Dalton Varsho, trading away higher prospects for him. But now they go and they send away maybe a potential bat for more defense when ever since they started doing that mentality, we've been seeing that ceiling drop for the Blue Jays. 89 wins and 74 last year. So what do you think from the Blue Jays perspective, man?
Yeah, I mean, it really is puzzling. Ultimately, like, the management over there on Toronto just can't help themselves, right? Like whenever there is somebody that can field a baseball well, like they just can't stop themselves from doing it. And I mean, it's almost like they just go blind when they look at the 638 OPS that this guy had last year. I know that he stole a lot of bags.
Yeah, he
and
did.
you know, I do think that that's a very valuable part of baseball right now. I think that's something that, you know, you're seeing the winning teams do a lot more than the losing teams and doing
Right.
at a high level. However, he got on base less than 30% of the time, right?
Yeah, that's
so
not good.
like that's not good. You know,
No.
if you're going to be a big stolen base guy, I want you to have a relatively high on base so we can be threatening these guys
Right.
consistently throughout the ball game. That's not the case with Andres Gimenez. Like, I don't know, man. Ultimately, the Toronto just needs to hope that bat gets better because, like, I'm just shocked that they would even have the balls to do this because
After all the
that's
criticism
the
they've
thing. After
gotten.
all the criticism that they got about the Dalton Varsho deal, which, you know, it should be criticized. You'd think that they would hold off on that and want to go in a direction that is favoring hitters more. That is not who this player is. In fact, this guy is even more Dalton Varsho than Dalton Varsho ever is. You know, like it is
Yeah.
terrible offense and huge defense. So,
Right.
I mean, I see what they're doing there. It's just you got to have somebody that can eventually hit the baseball with authority, and this isn't him.
And that's the thing. Like, obviously, the free agency isn't over, but they need to add a power bat because right now I'm looking at Fangraphs. You got Will Wagner batting fourth. That's not the guy. I mean, he's had 86 plate appearances. You're gonna have this guy slotted in fourth. What? And then Alejandro Kirk batting fifth, and then it's Gimenez. That's how bad they have Gimenez projected right now. He's batting sixth on the Toronto Blue Jays. So it doesn't matter. Dude, literally I had this thought. Literally, Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro coming from the Cleveland Guardians organization, they're like, man, if we just got to a bigger market team and we had the budget to really go deep into defense and pitching, we'd be so good. Well, you're clearly seeing the downside of that. They have all the money in the world. They traded for one of the best defenders in Dalton Varsho and Gimenez because they can afford it now. And now you're seeing the downside. But, yeah, it's weird. It only makes sense if they add Corbin Burnes or Santander or power bats.
Exactly. Like, there's got to eventually you need to score runs. I agree that pitching and defense can win championships, and I do think that is
Right.
like there's something to be said about that. However, they can't do that if you have a 0 on the board. And this is unlike
right.
football where regardless of how good you play defensively, you can never score points when you're on the field. That's just how it is, you know?
You
like
can't, man.
eventually you need to get a score offensively speaking.
That's right.
And it just feels like, you know, they do not have a roster that can do that. It is also very scary when you're looking over at division rivals like the New York Yankees, who are in serious talks right now to trade for Kyle Tucker. Now, we know that they just lost Juan Soto, and that is a blow. Juan Soto is a very quality talent. But right there is Kyle Tucker, and you could make a strong argument that Kyle Tucker is not that far removed from the type of production that Juan Soto could provide if he goes over there in a Yankees uniform. This is an incredible talent who last year had just shy, granted it was in half the games, but had just shy of a 1 OPS when it was all said and done. If he's healthy and he's on the field next to Aaron Judge, he will be a menace.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they're not playing around either. Like they really do want 1 year of Kyle Tucker because they probably saw how good of a 1 year you can get right there. But now that they brought in Max Fried, they're actually willing to shop away some of their other starting pitchers, including the Rookie of the Year Luis Heel. That's being rumored right now to be involved in a Kyle Tucker trade, which makes sense. I mean, if I am Houston and I'm going to trade my guy, you know, my superstar guy that you're talking about could be up there with like Vladdy and, you know, all these other guys in terms of production, then yeah, I'm going to want to get a Rookie of the Year, Luis Heel, great quality guy in return, right? So they're asking for a lot, though, these Astros. They're asking for, you know, him. They're asking for also other big top prospects. I mean, hell, they're talking right now with the Cubs. They want Suzuki, they want Paredes, and they want their 2 last former first-round picks. That's a lot to be asking
That's like
for
a
1
lot,
year.
a lot. Yeah, exactly. Now, if Kyle Tucker had a bit more control, I'd be like, all right, for sure. Because again, we are talking about I think that Kyle Tucker is arguably one of the more underrated guys in baseball, actually. Like, we don't talk about him enough as to how talented he is, but he needs to be up there in the conversations of, top 10 best hitters in the game. Seriously.
Absolutely.
That's a real thing. Now, from a Yankee standpoint, trading away Luis Gil, your fan base might not love that because they just literally fell in love with him.
Right.
And the guy is really, really good and should have a bright future. However, it all comes back to what you are trying to do as an organization and a franchise. I think that you should be trying to win with Aaron Judge. I think that's it. You got Aaron Judge and you have Garrett Cole and you have them at an elite level for, let's say, 2 to 4 more years, right? That's probably realistic that they're going to be elite for 2 to 4 more years. Win. Yeah. How many guys can hit 62 home runs in a season? Not a fucking lot, right?
Yeah.
So you got to win with those guys.
It feels like it's funny because one of the quotes that came out from the whole Juan Soto sweepstakes is Juan Soto felt that the Mets had a better future than the Yankees, and they have a better prospect system, and maybe they're better lined up for the future. Because where the Yankees, you're right, like their window, it's not closed yet at all. They went to the World Series, but eventually it will close, and eventually they don't really have prospects coming up to replace these guys that we know of right now. So they're kind of just kicking the can down the road, using their financial flexibility to bring in guys like Max Fried to be able to trade away guys like Luis Gil and maybe some of their prospects that aren't developing too well, and then add a guy like Kyle Tucker, go for it again. That's your Juan Soto replacement, and do it again. Is it the right strategy? Maybe. Maybe it is if they want to go win right now, but for the long haul, it could be detrimental.
I think you go get Kyle Tucker, man. I think you go get Kyle Tucker.
I think so too.
And I think honestly, like you do the exact same thing that you just did with Juan Soto, and you try to shoot your shot again at extending him.
Just keep kicking that problem of the whole future down the road, and we'll go win.
Exactly, right? Like you need to go capitalize with these generational Hall of Fame talents that you have on your team right now. And there is multiple Hall of Famers that the New York Yankees have on their roster right now. I'm not going to go so far to say that Kyle Tucker is a future Hall of Famer, but he could be if he keeps playing at the level that he is playing at right now. Like, he is that damn good. So take him, put him on your roster, have him fill in for Juan Soto. I know that you're losing Luis Gil, but it feels like at that point you've supplemented enough of the Juan Soto offensive loss with Tucker, and you've got Max Fried back. Like, this is a win for me if you're the Yankees.
Yeah, like, I mean, they might feel the loss in the rotation of Gil, but you've got Cole and Fried now. That's
it,
gross.
Dude. That's it.
If Rodon can give you anything, that's awesome. Go get Marcus Stroman. Hell, they can go get another pitcher if they really wanted to.
They got Clark Schmidt in there too.
They got Clark Schmidt.
That guy can do some stuff.
They've got Nestor Cortez. Like, you forget about that guy. And if you really want a guy, like, again, like, you could just go sign anybody else. Go sign a Flaherty. Go sign literally anybody. And go Sean Manaea. That feels like a Yankee right there.
Yeah.
He was in the Queens last year. Go walk over town and go play for the Yankees. And, again, they're still in on other guys like Alex Bregman. If they go get Tucker and Bregman, hello, there's the Houston Astros just going over the Yankees.
Seriously, yeah.
Right? You know, they could go and fill out that third base bag, and that moves Jazz over to second. And then Juan Soto who?
Yeah.
Like, we actually have a team now that can go back to the World Series, especially in an AL where it's looking like very uncompetitive. I mean, you could make an argument the Boston Red Sox are looking darn nice right now. And then especially if the Houston Astros trade away Kyle Tucker and they lose Alex Bregman, where are they going to be next year? You know, they might not be as competitive as before. So, hell, go for it, man.
Yeah, honestly, like, even if, like, just think about it from a standpoint of, well, if we get Kyle Tucker, we lessen the chances that we're going to have to deal with Houston in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And from a Yankee standpoint, that is always a win.
Amazing.
Right? Like,
Amazing.
if we can get those guys in a spot where we don't have to handle them, then great.
Absolutely.
Because obviously they've knocked them out many, many times.
Yeah, and think about the postseason last year when they got knocked out immediately, the Houston Astros. Like, what was their competition? The Royals and the Guardians? You know, that's easy. That's cake. That's a cakewalk, right? So, I mean, Yankees, they got a lot of work to do, but they're honestly having even though they lost Juan Soto, a pretty darn good offseason. Let's talk about our sponsor right now, guys, on Betway. Go check it out, guys. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the details section to join the action. Available in Ontario only. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. More football. It's Thursday night, everybody. The Rams and the 49ers are playing tonight in San Francisco. You've got the 49ers money line. They're the favorites right now. 1.66 multiplier against the Rams, 2.25. The Rams, though, Nick, better record, have been playing a lot better as of late than the San Francisco 49ers. However, the 49ers did, I forget who they played last week, but they did pound a team last week. What do you got for this one?
This is a tough one, man. It's a divisional game, and it feels like two teams that are relatively even matched right now.
Yeah.
You also have the 49ers at home, so, like, I don't know, man. I genuinely, like, in that regard, from a monetary standpoint, I might just shoot my shot at the underdog and hope for the best. I don't know who's going to win this game, though. Yeah, I'm not sure.
The Rams, and again, divisional. It's not like they're too far away, like LA and San Fran. Like, just go down the highway a few hours, and there you go. And it's like, yeah, I feel like the Rams was a nice pick right here. They've been playing some really good ball lately. I mean, Puka Nakua's been popping the hell off right now. Yeah. Kyron Williams is great. Like, it feels like they're really finding their momentum as of late. San Fran's hit or miss. They got so many injuries. No more McCaffrey. Yeah. You know what I mean? They obviously been without Debo. It feels like it's going to be more Rams than not, in my opinion, even though you're at home. I mean,
I get that. No, I do definitely get that. And, I mean, the Rams, I think they just came off a massive win beating the Bills. Yeah. Right, so I mean, like they got to be feeling good about themselves, and ultimately, like this, if they do go in and knock off the Rams here, or knock off the 49ers, excuse me, not only are they now making a serious play for that division, right? But it is the full nail in the 49ers coffin.
Absolutely.
You're done now.
Absolutely. They got like Seahawks are like 8-5 right now, and it's like, yeah, they get a win. That's 8-6 for them. So.
Yes. Yeah, like they're right there, and then 49ers, it's season over. We're done,
So guys, check it out. Click that link in the details or scan the QR code to join the action. Please play responsibly. Let's continue our winter meetings conversations. There was also some other moves that went down. A big one, especially. We're talking about the AL East. My goodness, the Boston Red Sox are not kidding around.
They're not playing, man.
They went out and they got their guy. They didn't spend the money like we've been kind of telling them to. They went in and they did it a different way. They went out and they got Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. Very eerily similar to a Chris Sale trade many years ago, where Chris Sale was on the White Sox. Big lefty, powerful ace. They trade away their farm to go bring him over to Boston. Very eerily similar, and history repeats itself. They go get Garrett Crochet to add to a pretty decent rotation already, but it did cost a lot. What are your thoughts right now on this Crochet trade?
I mean, as a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I hate it because Boston is woken up, but Boston's awake now, guys. Like, they're here. They're out of hibernation. It's felt like ever since that Mookie Betts trade that they made, several years ago, that they've just kind of been like, floating around. And effectively every year they've been like a 500 ball team, Right. And that's with them not doing a whole lot, just like surviving, just treading water, doing what we do. But it is time to go right now. I saw something a little while ago talking about the Rafael Devers contract. Yeah. And people, the discussion had changed from, well, this is a lot of money to, this is a steal. You got a probably Hall of Fame talent right there. Young guy, very similar to a Guerrero, locked down on what is now looking like a steal of a deal. Yeah. Build around him. Yeah. Make it happen, right? You have this guy for a decade. You got him in his prime right now. And I do think that Boston is fully awake right now and realizing that, wait a second, we are a good team. And the AL East isn't as strong as maybe we thought it was. Like the Yankees, they went to the World Series, but they weren't world beaters. The Baltimore Orioles, like,
what are they doing?
Like, they are, and I do still think that they're going to be very good. I think what's going to happen here is we're going to forget about them, right? Because they're going to be quiet this offseason. But they're, all their prospects are going to handle business. But I don't think that they're necessarily, 100-win team right now or anything like that. You're like, there's no like serious juggernaut right now, I believe, in the AL East now that Juan Soto has left the New York Yankees. So if you're the Boston Red Sox, like, go out, claim that thing for yourself. They're not even done. They were talking about going out and making another trade for Luis Castillo, like getting in serious talk. So, I mean, they are really investing in that pitching right now.
Yeah, I mean, and not only Rafael Devers too, but on the lineup they got Jarren Duran.
You forget about that guy. Right? He was a fucking elite.
He was an all-star last year. He was awesome, right? That guy had 21 homers, an average of 285, on base 342, lots of stolen bases, 34.
He's a free agent in 2029.
Yeah,
so you have that guy for a long time, long time,
right? So I think that's why they feel comfortable trading away a lot of their prospects, which they did.
Sorry to cut you off, but this guy, I didn't even realize this. 8.7 WAR.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Is what Jarren.
Great defensively
I knew
too.
That's the thing. I knew he was incredible, like from an offensive standpoint. 34 stolen bags, 834 OPS, but 8.7 WAR.
See, that's the potential of Andres Gimenez if he could bat like Jarren Duran, because he's got the defense and the stolen bases.
Yes, yeah, literally. Like Jarren Duran is Andres Gimenez's like fucking MVP year.
Yeah, right.
But seriously, like that is an incredible baseball season right there from a 27-year-old Jarren Duran, and you got to hope that continues if you're the Boston Red Sox. I like what they're doing a lot. I think that they aren't going to be finished, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if now they want to go out, and because there's been rumors that they are going to be looking at an Anthony Santander.
Right,
That's something that they were talking about.
Also, Alex Bregman. There's rumors that they could bring in Bregman, move Devers over to first base, and that'd be very solid.
And now, like, if they go out and they add, let's just say that they go out and they add, a Santander, and they also get across the finish line this Luis Castillo deal, or alternatively, like they go out and they get a Flaherty or something like that. Like, I'm looking at them now as a 90-win plus team. Like, and I do not think that you can sleep on the Boston Red Sox at all.
Yeah, like their rotation now is very solid with Crochet and Houck kind of leading the pack. They both had sub-4 ERAs last year. They're not even putting Giolito on this list yet. He was injured last year too, had elbow surgery. But if you add him, that's a top 3. Bayo had some great moments, some bad moments. He had a 4.49 ERA. I thought I didn't know it was that high. Cutter Crawford, again, great moments, bad moments, but you have a good top 3 right now in that rotation. So yeah, no, I agree. Like, they could be an easily a 90-win team next year. I do want to talk about the package they gave up, because honestly, from a White Sox perspective, this is really good return. This is a very good return. They got Brandon Montgomery, who is the 54th overall MLB prospect. Very good right there. Then they got infielder Chase Meredith, or Madroth, I don't know how to pronounce his name, number 11 prospect in Boston Red Sox system. Then they got their 14th prospect, and then they got sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Oh, apparently, okay, so Montgomery was the 12th overall pick in 2024, and then they got Teal, who was the 14th overall pick, and then you had, God, this is the most confusing thing I've ever seen in my life. This is written out there. But essentially 2 first-round picks, and then a top 100 prospect in the Red Sox system. That's huge. Yeah. Like, that's a huge return.
No, that's massive. And honestly, like, if I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, it does suck to hear that we gave all that up, but this is the price to pay when you are talking about an elite talent in Garret Crochet. I think if you are the Red Sox right now, take some of that money that you were looking to give Juan Soto and throw a couple bucks at Garrett's way and get that extension already in the works.
You do need it, because it was a heavy price tag. Okay, this is with 2 top 100 guys and 2 top first-round picks. Former first-round picks. Man. That's amazing. For 2 years of Garret Crochet.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. So that's the thing. That is why, if you're the Red Sox, winning now and also extending Crochet and doing all of that is going to be very, very important.
And that's why it reminds me a lot of the whole Chris Sale addition, because they traded for him and then extended him, which is perfect. That's exactly what you needed to do.
And that became their guy for 5-6 years right there.
Him and David Price were like the 2 dudes there for a long, long time. So, I'm loving what they're doing. And honestly, depending on how the rest of this offseason shakes up, who's going to be the favorite in the AL? It's probably the Yankees still, but the Red Sox don't sleep on them.
No, and I do still think that the Yankees need to go out and do they need a hitter.
They need a hitter.
They need a hitter.
Yeah,
I think the pitching is more than okay at this point. They need a hitter. They need a strong hitter as well to fill in for Juan Soto. I'm just pulling these numbers out of my ass right now, but if I had to guess, a Yankees over/under is probably something at what do you have it at? Like a 90.5 right now?
Yankees?
Yeah.
91.5 maybe. It all depends on how they right now. I mean, it's hard to say, but yeah, I mean,
it's
in the
certainly
90s,
not. Yeah, it's
90s.
like it's not crazy, right? In years past, we've seen those Yankee over/unders be something like 97.5, really good. I don't think they're there right now. You know? Like I still think that the Boston Red Sox have a capability to be right there with them.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. So that's the update in the AL East. You got Red Sox moving up, Yankees maybe staying the same, maybe moving up in a little bit if they make some additions. Blue Jays falling way down. Where are the Orioles? That's the update there, man.
Tampa Bay Rays. Just
who are the Rays?
Mode. I mean,
they're just going to be Rays next year. Watch them come out of nowhere and win 90 games again.
That's the shit that actually genuinely pisses me off.
You do nothing all off season, and then how do you win 90 games? Analytics. I don't know. Another kind of trade that happened that kind of fell under the radar, in my opinion, because I wasn't really looking at this. But the Rangers, they make a trade for Jake Burger. Quite the name. Love that guy. Solid dude. I mean, in his career, 1,233 at-bats. He's got an OPS plus of 111.
Yeah.
So an above-average guy. Very solid. I don't know how he is defensively, but very solid bat that you can rely on in the middle of that lineup. And the Rangers trade away 3 prospects to get him. And here's the thing. Great job for the Rangers. Go make your addition.
I like this a lot for the
absolutely
Rangers, yeah.
Solid guy. You didn't really have a reliable bat in your lineup last year. You guys kind of just fell off a cliff after winning the World Series. But here's my thing. My attention immediately goes to Miami. What the hell are you guys doing, man? I feel like I say this every 2 months on this podcast. I go, what the hell are the Miami Marlins doing? You are getting their number 17th ranked prospect, their number 16th ranked prospect, and their number 20th ranked prospect.
Right.
What? You had Jake Burger, locked up, and he's going to be a free agent in 2029.
Yeah.
That's time to build. And it's not like you're getting back in return. It's like, it makes sense to trade away Burger now because there's lots of value here. This guy can come up and we can reset the clock on him. He's got so much clock left.
Yeah.
If they've continued to do these moves time and time again, and it makes no effing sense, and you're never going to have a winning team if you keep doing shit like this.
Yeah, no, I do think that Miami is probably... It's arguable, but they might be the most incompetent management group there.
Them or the Rockies.
Rockies are there.
Yeah.
There's a couple other squads. I mean, just the way that Oakland has handled their move. And, White Sox did lose the most games of ever.
True.
But again, they're right there, right? Miami is right there. Jake Burger is a free agent in 2029, man.
Yeah.
I just think that, for somebody that hit 29 home runs last year in a season that he wasn't even fully healthy,
right,
you would get a higher return with that amount of control. But Miami just willing to give it up for some prospects. I just don't understand, like you, what it is that their goal here is. They've never really made... it's like they get good players and they give the good players away, and they don't get good returns on said good players. I don't know.
No. You know what? I'm looking at their former rosters back in the day. In 2016, they had Christian Yelich. They had David Phelps, actually pretty good that year. JT Realmuto, Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, Ichiro Suzuki, and how many games did they win? I think they actually were a pretty decent team. They weren't. 79 and 82.
Yeah.
How did you do that? And then obviously they had Jose Fernandez, rest in peace. But they had guys, and even in 2017, actually their top 5 guys were amazing. They had all those dudes. They were all popping off that year. What happened? You only win 77 games. How do you have all these guys and then lose? Maybe they're just afraid to get good guys because they think they're going to get disappointed again.
I don't know, man. It's a bad way to run a baseball team. It really is a bad way to run a baseball team. Miami is going to be right up there once again with the most losses out of anybody because anyone that's good goes away. Anyone that's good goes away to other good teams, right? And it's going to happen again. You're probably going to have like 1 or 2 guys on Miami like start to play good baseball. They'll get traded away.
Bye Jazz. Jesus Luzardo. That's a name being tossed around a lot. He's going to go soon. Bye.
Yep.
All of you are going to be gone. Oh, actually, I know why they sucked in 2017, 2016. Their manager was Don Mattingly.
Wow.
There you go.
There you have
Blame the management. He's now a manager of the Blue Jays and got them. Well, not manager. I guess
hitting
assistant
coordinator,
hitting
tough
coordinator.
to know.
Who fucking knows? He's there influencing people to lose games.
Pretty much.
So
yeah.
that's it, guys. So that's the latest updates from the winter meetings. All the biggest moves that happened. I'm sure there's always little other signings and stuff that happened, but those are the major moves, and as well the latest rumors surrounding the free agents and trade market. I'm sure there's going to be a ton more before the winter holidays happen. So we'll be there updating y'all here on Bad for Baseball.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. If you haven't already done so, hit that like, smash the subscribe button. Getting very close to 1,000 subscribers, which would feel really good for the boys. So if you've been tuning in or this is your first time and you enjoyed it, then please hit that subscribe button.
Guys, we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.